Good morning, Julie. How are you?
Good morning, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Just really delighted to chat to you today. And glad that everybody else is going to be able to hear a little bit about your story of just managing to be the fifth school in Perth and Kinross that have got your Digital Schools Award, or the fifth primary. How is everybody feeling at the minute?
We're really quite still buzzing, really quite delighted that our journey's been recognised in such a positive way. It was just such a positive experience, and I'm really happy to share and be there for anybody that wants to ask any questions about it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. What I'm hoping to do today is just ask you a few key questions that I know a lot of people that have maybe started this journey a while ago or are maybe just looking at this for the first time. I'm hoping the questions I have for you today will help them and equally give you a bit of a chance to say how good you guys have been and how nice you found the experience. So if it's okay, I'll just get started with them just now and we can just have a bit of a chat about them for other people to benefit from. So for the first question, I just wanted to ask you about the very first thing that you do as part of the Digital Schools Award. So the self-evaluation is obviously pretty much step one. How did you find that process and how did you do that with your staff?
Okay, so we registered for the Digital Schools Award way back in May 2019, which feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we first looked at the self-evaluation tool as part of our self-evaluation, knowing that digital technologies in some form or another were going to be the focus of our improvement plan for the following year. So we felt that was a good place to start. But when we first looked at the self-evaluation, we weren't really coming out as highly as we thought we were. It's a really valuable tool. And it really makes you think, okay, we don't have, like, for example, we didn't have a strategy. And that was kind of the overarching thing that was necessary for all of it. And we didn't have that. We were just looking at the national strategy. So we kind of let it sit for a little while and didn't come back to it again until just very recently this term. But the first step that we took, that first self-evaluation step, informed the improvement plan outcome for 1920. 2021 was really more about recovery, so everything kind of went on hold. And then 2021-22, this session is when we really just went to town and went for it. Back and looked at it again, yeah.
Okay, so a bit of a staggered start, like a lot of people, I think, at the moment. And that self-evaluation almost helped you write your strategy, I suppose, didn't it?
Definitely. I would say we probably did it the wrong way round, because the first thing in the self-evaluation they're looking at is leadership and vision, and it asks you about your strategy. And that's probably one of the last things that we did. But we did it more as of a reflective tool, and that really was the backbone of everything. So I would say to anybody who's looking for something to start with that. Start with your vision, start with what your aspirations are. And ours is, rather than a policy, it's like a working document where we're saying, this is where we want to be, and this is our current position. And we just kept reflecting and working through that and submitted it as it was. And we're quite delighted to be told, it's really strong, which, as school staff, we don't really take that very well. I'm not very good at saying, yeah, we're really good at that.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. And I've actually shared that strategy in the digital schools team so that others can have a wee look at it. So it's great to hear that it was highly regarded and that people at digital schools actually said that's brilliant. Like, that's a really good strategy.
And I have to say that I searched for one online and I found a school out with the authority. I approached the school and spoke to the head teacher, said I really liked theirs. It suited our school, but they were completely different. They were more Glow and Microsoft, and we're more Seesaw, and we're much smaller than they were. But I asked if I could take it and use it as a basis, and she was happy to do that. So I just used the structure of it. So I'm happy for that to be used in any way anybody wants to.
That is great. Thank you so much. And nice to know that others out there are the friendly face that we keep saying that they will be. Yeah, that's really encouraging. So once you'd done the self-evaluation process, you kind of looked at, right, where are we? Where would we like to be? How did you choose what to do first? Like, how did you choose those key priorities and what to do?
Okay, so we started off looking at digital literacy. So we, as the children, when they were speaking in their validation visit, we'll talk about the laptops that we used to have in the lap safe, and they never worked and they didn't hold their charge and nobody could get logged in. So we started looking at the resources that we had and the children's ability to use the resources that we had, using them as a tool for learning. And we knew we had this aspiration of one-to-one devices because we've only got 29 children in the whole school. And over the course of those years, we were very, very careful with our PEF funding, our allocation, our DSM, and we've worked towards having one-to-one devices, and we've gone for iPads. And we're really delighted that we've gone for that because it's all just matched up with how the infrastructure's worked out with the boost in the Wi-Fi and the Promethean boards and the connectivity that the iPads have with them. So the first year, we set out looking at digital literacy. Then we had that lockdown where the professional development just went off the scale, the level of ability in the staff. So when we came back, we had another look and we kept it on our improvement plan, but we thought, well, it's not digital literacy anymore, it's actually computing. It's actually getting into learning about coding. It's actually getting into what computational thinking is. And we had training through Barefoot, looking at all these different activities that they could do, but that was just before lockdown and that fell out of everybody's heads. So all of that came back in again. We joined in with Code Along Live, and we're still in that outcome, but now we're starting to think more than just using them as a tool for learning. We're thinking about actual computing skills, computational thinking skills. So that's how it's progressed since 2019 up until now.
So really your first step was to look at, can the kids use the stuff that you've got? Are they using it in the right way? Then let's upgrade that a wee bit if we can. Yes. Then we had a lockdown and some chaos happened, and then we came back from that. And after that, you kind of use that as a springboard to go forwards and have a think about, well, how are we thinking here about computers? How are we embedding that skill? That really is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. The next thing that I wanted to ask you then, and you might have already answered this, what are some of the biggest benefits, do you think, of having gone through the award and having gone through that self-evaluation process and all the changes that you've decided to make? What are some of the biggest benefits for your staff and for your pupils of going through that process?
I have to say that the validation process was such an affirming, positive experience, and it was real recognition for the sheer determination and hard work that everyone had put in. And we were very careful to share our journey of before, during and after lockdown, because a lot of learning and hard work during lockdown happened. That crazy time just prior to lockdown where we had to decide very, very quickly, what platform are we going to use? What's our virtual school going to be like? And we had used Seesaw as a journal tool. That was all. No idea at that time what the possibilities of it were. And we decided to go with that. And it just completely blew our minds. The hours of training that the staff put in to become Seesaw pioneers, and then all three of us are Seesaw ambassadors. The communication and collaboration and engagement of parents and their children's learning through Seesaw was just phenomenal. Children were getting their work obviously through Seesaw activities, but parents were responding to that and engaging with it. So we haven't dropped that. Now we're back in school, we're still using Seesaw as a learning tool. We're still sharing our lessons. Although we're in the class doing them, we're still doing them and involving the parents with it. And it's just been so positive and fantastic. It's really... It just
makes that connection between school and home so much more fluid, doesn't it?
Definitely. And it's also linked in with our eco schools that we're using, like the children have also said, we're using a lot less paper now. Well, we did. We used to have these learning journal folders where the children would take photos and print them out of their best piece of work. We don't need any of that now. Everything is there in their journal on Seesaw. It's like our virtual classroom, our virtual school, the connection with the blog, the connection with the parents. That's been great, but the actual ability to go back to the self-evaluation, to look at where are we actually, and then come back at it again. Ours was quite a long time, and it doesn't need to be that length of time, but we came back to it just recently and went through it again and then discovered, no, we're actually doing that. We have that. We're doing that well now.
Yeah, we can tick
Just
a
have
few
the
of those boxes off.
bravery. Yeah, let's just brave that button and give it a go.
Definitely, thank you. So the next thing, oh sorry. So the next thing I wanted to ask you, so it's clear that the process has been really positive for you guys, but it's also clear that it was quite, it didn't need to be a long process, but it was for you guys just because of the timing of things. For people that are just starting this journey, or people that have maybe done similar to you and started this a while ago and are now continuing it, do you have any kind of nuggets of advice that you think, oh, for goodness sake, don't do that, or do absolutely put a bit of extra effort into this bit because that saved you time? Any, with hindsight, bits of advice that you could give to people?
I would just say be brave and just be really honest, and everybody's journey is going to be very different. Don't be put off if you see what other schools are doing. I mean, we had to make the decision very quickly that we were going to be a seesaw school and that's what we were going to use. We had missed out for various reasons on a lot of Glow and Office 365 and Teams training. So my staff were incredibly anxious about going into lockdown, not being able to go Teams, but we had seesaw. So it's whatever your school is comfortable with and however you use it to enhance learning and teaching, and particularly the children's learning experiences, engagement with your parents. I think if you reflect back now on what you have done during lockdown and what you've kept after lockdown, you'll probably discover, like we did, you're in a really good place, in a really strong position. And I don't think there's any way we would be in this position now if we hadn't been through that horrible experience.
Yeah, possibly. I've caught myself thinking a few times that it probably was the most stressful, but the best CPD we've ever had.
Absolutely.
It probably was, wasn't it? So nice to hear that you're thinking that actually just be a bit brave and just go for that button at the end, and actually just try and give yourself a bit of credit where it's due, possibly as well. And that message of, whatever it is that you have in front of you, just use it in the best way possible. That's exactly what digital schools want us to do as well. They are saying, it really doesn't matter about the infrastructure you have, the type of device that you happen to have, or lack of devices, if that may so be the case for some schools. So long as you're looking to use them well, that's enough. That's what they're looking for. So great to hear that that is kind of what your ethos was as well. What now? What are you guys about to do now? So that's a really exciting question. What next?
So we had a very positive validation visit and a really lovely person, Alan Armstrong, who met with the children and met with the staff and met with me, has put us forward as a mentor school, which we were quite delighted about. It's a bit of a boost to everyone in the hard work that we've put in. And he's also encouraged us to go for the Digital Wellbeing Award. So that's where we're going next. We're going to be looking at Chris' work and we're thinking about digital wellbeing. And we started that yesterday on Be Internet Legends Day when we joined in with the Assembly. And this time we invited parents to join in with us. We joined in with the Assembly and then we did a digital wellbeing lesson. And we're now going to be looking at the self-evaluation process again, because there's a self-evaluation for that award. And it's not necessarily just to get another award. It's to be better at digital wellbeing, because that's incredibly important. So we'll be looking for that. Yeah, we'll be looking for an improvement in our acceptable use policy, looking again at our safeguarding policy, and then just looking at what we're currently using for Chris and like how it needs to be better.
Brilliant. So still just that focus on where are we, where are we headed, and how can we make this better for our kids? And most importantly, there's so many mentions there of parents as well, of making that a really fluid, an education process for not just your kids to do with Chris and health and wellbeing, but maybe for the parents too, which is brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us, Julie, and I'm really hoping that the information that you've been able to share with us today is really going to spur on some other schools to maybe think about just hitting that button and being brave, like you said. So thank you for the words of encouragement, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.